The stars around Pluto began to move. Dr. Lisa Monroe rubbed her tired eyes and looked at her computer screen again. The dots of light were definitely moving, and they were getting bigger. She had been watching the deep space monitors for 12 hours straight, but this was different from anything she had ever seen. "Computer, run full spectrum analysis on Sector 7, she said to the machine. The numbers that came back made her heart race. There were thousands of objects heading toward Earth, and they were huge. Lisa grabbed her phone and called General Marcus Blake at the North American Defense Command. The phone rang 3 times before his deep voice answered. "This better be important, Monroe." "It's 3 in the morning. General, we have a problem. A big one. There are ships coming toward Earth. Alien ships." The line went quiet for a moment. "How many ships?" Lisa looked at her screen again. The computer was still counting. "Over 10,000, sir." "And they're massive. The biggest one is the size of a city." "I'll be right there," Blake said, and hung up. 30 minutes later, General Blake stood in the observatory control room. He was a tall man with gray hair and serious eyes. He had fought in 3 wars, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. "Show me," he said. Lisa pointed to the main screen. The alien fleet looked like a cloud of angry wasps moving through space. Each ship was the size of a skyscraper, and the command ship in the center dwarfed them all. "How long until they reach Earth?" Blake asked. "At their current speed, 72 hours, Lisa replied. Blake picked up the secure phone on Lisa's desk. "Get me the president, now." President Calvin Hayes was in his pajamas when the Secret Service woke him up. 20 minutes later, he sat in the White House Situation Room, staring at the same images that had terrified Lisa Monroe. "Are we sure these are hostile?" the president asked. His question was answered when the alien fleet sent a message. Transmission came through every radio, television, and computer on Earth at the same time. The voice was cold and mechanical. "People of Earth, I am Admiral Kralfex of the Zephyrian Empire. Your planet has been selected for integration into our empire. You have 72 hours to surrender completely. Lay down all weapons and prepare for occupation. Any resistance will result in the complete destruction of your species. We have destroyed 17 civilizations before you. Do not make us destroy an 18th. The message ended, and the world fell silent for a moment. Then chaos began. Captain Ryan Foster was eating breakfast on the USS Phantom when the message played. The Phantom was humanity's newest warship, built in secret using experimental technology. It was small compared to the alien ships, but it was fast and nearly invisible to most scanners. Foster's second-in-command, Lieutenant Amy Carter, ran into the dining room. "Captain, we're getting orders from command. Emergency deployment." Foster followed her to the bridge. The message from General Blake was short. "Scout the enemy fleet. Find their weaknesses. Humanity depends on you." Foster looked at his crew. There was Lieutenant Carter, who could read enemy tactics like a book. Sergeant Jake Williams ran the ship's engines and could fix anything that broke. They were good people, and now they had to fly into the middle of the largest space fleet ever seen. "Well, team," Foster said, "looks like we're going to make history today." Deep underground in Nevada, Dr. Nathan Cross was already making history. For 5 years, he had been working on a secret project that the government called impossible. He called it Prometheus Fire. The laboratory was buried 2 miles under the desert. It looked like something from a science fiction movie, with glowing screens and humming machines everywhere. Cross had been working for 36 hours straight, and his coffee had gone cold hours ago. His assistant, Dr. Karen White, brought him a fresh cup. "Nathan, the resonance stations are all online. All 500 of them." Cross nodded. For 1 year, 'For 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 1 year But these towers were different. They were connected by quantum links. And when they worked together, they could focus energy in ways that had never been tried before. "How long until the system is ready?" he asked. 48 hours if everything goes perfectly," Karen replied. Cross looked at the countdown timer on his wall. The aliens would arrive in 72 hours. That gave them 24 hours to test a weapon that had never been fired before. If it didn't work, Earth would fall. Back in the White House, President Hayes was on the phone with every world leader. The conversation was the same each time. "We need to work together," he told the Prime Minister of England. "This isn't about countries anymore. It's about the human race." General Blake stood next to the president's desk, watching the alien fleet get closer on his tablet. Each hour, the ships grew larger on Earth's telescopes. Soon, people would be able to see them with their naked eyes. "Sir," Blake said, "we need to address the nation. People are starting to panic." Hayes nodded. In 2 hours, he would give the most important speech in human history. He would tell 8 billion people that aliens were coming to destroy them, but that humanity would not go down without a fight. The alien fleet continued its steady approach toward Earth. Admiral Krall Thex sat in his command chair, reviewing the files on humanity. They were a young species, barely out of their home star system. Their weapons were primitive, their ships were small, and their military forces were divided into dozens of separate countries. It would be an easy conquest, just like all the others. But Admiral Krall Thex had made one mistake. He assumed that humans would react like every other species the Empire had conquered. He thought they would panic, surrender, or fight uselessly against impossible odds. He had never met a species that would smile while setting a trap. The USS Phantom moved through space like a ghost. Captain Ryan Foster watched the alien fleet grow larger on his screen as they got closer. Each enemy ship was 10 times bigger than his vessel, and there were thousands of them. "Stealth systems are holding steady," reported Sergeant Jake Williams from the engine room. "They can't see us yet." Lieutenant Amy Carter sat at her station, watching the enemy communications. "Captain, I'm picking up their radio signals. They're not even trying to hide their messages." Foster moved to stand behind her chair. "What are they saying?" "They're talking about us like we're animals in a zoo," Carter replied, her voice angry. "Listen to this." She played the alien transmission through the ship's speakers. The mechanical voice spoke in perfect English. "Commander Vexstar to Admiral Krall Thex. The human species appears to be in complete panic. Our scouts report no military response. Their ships are hiding behind their moon like frightened children." Another voice answered, "Excellent. Begin standard formation for planetary bombardment. We will demonstrate our power by destroying their largest cities first. The survivors will surrender immediately." Foster clenched his fists. The aliens were planning to kill millions of people just to make a point. "Carter, keep recording everything. We need to get this information back to Earth." The Phantom drifted closer to the alien fleet. The enemy ships were arranged in tight groups, perfect for their bombardment plan, but terrible for defense. Foster had spent 20 years in the Navy, and he could see the tactical mistake immediately. "They're bunched up like fish in a barrel," he whispered to himself. Williams called from the engine room. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy signatures from those ships. Whatever they're packing for weapons, it's unlike anything we've ever seen." "Can you get detailed scans?" Foster asked. "Already on it, sir. Their weapons are plasma-based, probably powered by antimatter reactors. But here's the interesting part. Their shield systems cycle on and off every few seconds." Foster raised an eyebrow. "They turn their shields off?" "Not off, but they rotate frequencies. There's a gap in protection every 3.7 seconds that lasts for about half a second." Carter looked up from her communication station. That's not all, Captain. I've been monitoring their command structure. Every ship reports to the flagship, and the flagship makes all the decisions. If we could take out their command ship, the whole fleet would be confused, Foster finished. Good work, both of you. Let's get this information to General Blake. On Earth, the panic was getting worse. People crowded into stores to buy food and water. Traffic jams blocked every major highway as families tried to reach each other. The president had declared martial law, but it barely helped. General Blake stood in his command center, watching the chaos on news feeds from around the world. His secure phone rang every few minutes with reports from military bases. The truth was simple and terrifying. Humanity's weapons were useless against the alien technology. Sir, said Colonel Sam Rodriguez, who was running the Pacific Defense. Grid, our best missiles couldn't scratch the paint on those ships. Blake nodded grimly. Their only hope was Dr. Cross and his secret weapon. If Prometheus fire didn't work, the war would be over before it started. In Nevada, Dr. Cross was having problems. The quantum resonance stations were online, but the power requirements were enormous. Every time they ran a test, entire cities experienced brownouts. We're drawing too much energy, Dr. Curran White reported. If we fire all 500 stations at once, we might overload the entire North American power grid. Cross rubbed his tired eyes. What if we fire them in sequences? Group 1, then Group 2, then Group 3? That could work, but the timing would have to be perfect. We're talking about hitting targets millions of miles away, while they're moving at thousands of miles per hour. Cross looked at the calculations. On his computer screen, the math was incredibly complex, but it was possible. Barely possible. How long do we need to set up the firing sequence? He asked. 12 hours minimum, Corinne replied. Cross looked at the clock. The alien fleet would reach Earth in 48 hours. That gave them just enough time if nothing went wrong. Meanwhile, Admiral Kralthex was growing impatient. He had expected the humans to send ambassadors begging for mercy by now. Instead, they were maintaining complete silence. Commander Zethrock, he called to his tactical officer. Have the humans sent any communications? Nothing, Admiral. Their military forces appear to be in hiding. We detect no ships leaving their planet. Kralthex found this strange. Every other species had either surrendered immediately or launched desperate attacks that accomplished nothing. The humans were doing neither. Perhaps they are paralyzed by fear, suggested Commander Zethrak. Perhaps, Kralthex agreed. Or perhaps they are planning something foolish. It matters little. In 40 hours, we will be in position to begin the bombardment. The USS Phantom had been following the alien fleet for 12 hours when disaster struck. A Zephyrian patrol ship detected an energy signature that didn't belong. Captain, we've been spotted, Carter shouted. The alien patrol ship was smaller than the main fleet vessels, but it was still 3 times larger than the Phantom. It turned toward them and began firing bright blue energy beams. Evasive maneuvers. Foster ordered. Williams pushed the engines to maximum power. The Phantom shot forward like a bullet, dodging the alien weapon's fire. But the enemy ship was fast too, and it was calling for help. More ships are coming, Carter reported. At least 6 of them. Foster made a split-second decision. Jake, prepare for emergency jump. Amy, transmit all our data to Earth immediately. The Phantom dove toward the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. The alien ships followed, firing continuously. One blast hit their rear shield, and the ship shook violently. Shield down to 60%, Williams reported. Foster flew the ship between 2 large asteroids, using them as cover. The alien ships were too big to follow the same path, but they began blasting the asteroids to pieces. Data transmission. Complete, Carter announced. Earth has everything we recorded. Good. Now let's get out of here. Williams activated the experimental jump drive that made the Phantom special. Space seemed to fold around them, and suddenly they were 1,000,000 miles away. The alien ships were left behind, confused and angry. Foster slumped in his captain's chair. They had escaped, but barely. The information they gathered would be crucial for Earth's defense, assuming there was going to be a defense. Back on Earth, General Blake received the Phantom's data transmission. The information about the shield gaps in command structure was exactly what Dr. Cross needed. Blake picked up his secure phone and called Nevada. Cross, I'm sending you targeting data. Can your system hit moving targets with pinpoint accuracy? If the calculations are perfect, yes, Cross replied. But Marcus, we only get one shot at this. If we miss, or if the system doesn't work, we won't get a second chance. Blake looked at the countdown timer on his wall. 36 hours until the alien fleet reached Earth. Then we better not miss, he said. In his underground laboratory, Dr. Cross began the most important work of his life. He had to calculate firing solutions for 500 energy weapons, targeting thousands of enemy ships that would be moving at incredible speeds. The math alone would take 20 hours, but if he succeeded, humanity would survive. If he failed, the human race would join 17 other extinct civilizations in the Zephyrian Empire's history books. The trap was being set, and soon the galaxy would learn that humans were not as helpless as they appeared. Admiral Kralfex stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger on the main screen. The blue planet looked peaceful and beautiful, which would make its destruction all the more satisfying. Admiral, reported Commander Zethrak, we are now within optimal bombardment range. All ships are in position for the demonstration attack. Kralfex smiled. The demonstration would be simple but effective. His fleet would destroy 3 major human cities simultaneously, showing the primitive species the futility of resistance. After that, the survivors would surrender within hours. Excellent. Target their largest population centers. London, Tokyo, and New York will serve as examples to the rest. But before he could give the order to fire, his communications officer interrupted. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from the planet. The humans wish to negotiate. Kralfex was surprised. Most species either surrendered immediately or fought uselessly until they were extinct. The humans were the first to request talks after seeing his fleet's power. Put them through, he ordered. President Calvin Hayes appeared on the screen, sitting in the White House Oval Office. He looked calm and composed, which impressed Kralfex slightly. I am President Hayes, leader of the United Earth government. I request the opportunity to discuss terms. Kralfex leaned forward in his command chair. There are no terms to discuss. Human, you will surrender unconditionally, or your species will be destroyed. I understand your position, Hayes replied. But surely a civilization as advanced as yours values efficiency. Complete destruction seems wasteful when cooperation could be more profitable. The alien admiral found this interesting. The human was not begging or showing fear. Instead, he was appealing to logic. You have my attention, Kralfex said, but you have exactly 1 hour to present your proposal. After that, the bombardment begins. Hayes nodded. 1 hour is acceptable. I will prepare our offer. The transmission ended, and Kralfex turned to his tactical officer. Maintain bombardment positions. This is likely a trick to buy time. Should we prepare to fire immediately? If they try anything? Commander Zethrak asked. Yes, but I am curious to see what they propose. No species has ever tried to negotiate after seeing our fleet. What Admiral Kralfex did not know was that the negotiation was exactly what Dr. Nathan Cross needed. The extra hour would give him time to complete the targeting calculations for Prometheus Fire. Deep in his Nevada library, Cross was working faster than he had ever worked in his life. The quantum resonance stations were online and ready, but hitting moving targets across millions of miles required perfect mathematical precision. Status report, he called to Dr. Corinne White. Stations 1 through 200 are locked and loaded. Stations 201 through 400 are still calibrating. The final 100 stations are having power regulation issues. Cross looked at the master control panel. Red lights showed problems with 73 stations scattered across the globe. If those stations didn't work, there would be gaps in the attack pattern. "Get me Colonel Rodriguez and Commander Scott," he ordered. Within minutes, he was connected to military officers around the world. Colonel Sam Rodriguez was managing the Pacific stations from his command center in Hawaii. Commander Helen Scott was coordinating the European stations from a bunker in England. "People, we have problems," Cross announced. "Some of our stations are offline. I need your engineers to fix them in the next 30 minutes. "Understood," Rodriguez replied. "My teams are already working on the power issues." "Same here," Scott added. "We'll get them online." Cross hoped they were right. A weapon system had never been tested at full power. If it failed, humanity would have no second chance. Meanwhile, Captain Ryan Foster was bringing the USS Phantom home to Earth. The ship had been damaged in the fight with the alien patrol, but it was still flying. "Docking request approved," came. The voice from Earth Control. "Proceed to Station 7. Foster guided his ship into the hidden military dock beneath the Pacific Ocean. As soon as they were secure, General Blake was waiting for them. "Captain, your mission was a success. The information you gathered about their shield frequencies is exactly what we needed." Foster nodded, but he looked worried. "General, there are a lot of them. Even with our new weapon, can we really destroy an entire fleet?" Blake's expression was grim. "We're about to find out. Cross believes the system will work, but we've never tested it against real targets." "What's our backup plan if it doesn't work?" Foster asked. "There is no backup plan," Blake replied. "This is humanity's only shot." On the alien flagship, Admiral Kralfex was becoming impatient. The humans had been negotiating for 50 minutes, and their proposals were getting more ridiculous. They offered to surrender half their planet in exchange for keeping the other half, Commander Zethrak reported. They claimed they can provide valuable resources and labor. Kralfex waved his hand dismissively. Typical desperate bargaining. "They still don't understand that we take everything or nothing." "Should I tell them their time is up?" the communications officer asked. "Give them 10 more minutes. Then we begin the bombardment, whether they agree or not." What the Admiral didn't realize was that those 10 minutes were exactly what Dr. Cross needed to complete his preparations. In the Nevada laboratory, the final targeting calculations were finished. All 500 quantum resonance stations were online and ready. The power grid was holding steady, though several cities were experiencing rolling blackouts. "All stations report ready," Corinne announced. Cross looked at the master targeting screen. Every major alien ship was marked with a red dot. The computer had calculated the exact moment when each ship's shields would be in their vulnerable phase. "Confirmed. Targets, 9,847 enemy vessels," he read from the screen. "Estimated destruction rate, 97.3%. The 2.7% that might survive would be the ships at the edges of the formation. But even if some escaped, the alien fleet would be effectively destroyed." Cross picked up the phone to General Blake. "We're ready." "Excellent. Stand by for the President's signal." In the White House, President Hayes was ending his fake negotiation with Admiral Kralfex. The alien commander was growing visibly angry. "Your proposals are unacceptable," Kralfex declared. You have wasted my time with foolish bargaining. Prepare for bombardment. Hayes looked directly into the camera. Admiral, I have one final offer. I suggest you consider it very carefully. Speak quickly, human. My offer is this. Leave our solar system immediately, and we won't destroy your entire fleet. Kralfex laughed, a sound like grinding metal. You threaten us? Your primitive weapons cannot harm our ships. Perhaps not, Hayes replied calmly. But you're about to learn something about humanity that you won't find in your databases. The alien admiral's expression changed from amusement to confusion. What are you talking about? We're very good at solving problems, Hayes said. And right now, you're our problem. Kralfex cut the transmission and turned to his tactical officer. Begin bombardment immediately. Target all major cities. Yes, Admiral. Charging weapons now. But as the alien ships powered up their weapons, something else was happening on Earth. In 500 locations around the planet, quantum resonance. Stations were building up energy charges that would make the alien weapons look like firecrackers. Dr. Cross watched his control panel as the power levels climbed. All stations at maximum charge. Targeting locked. Waiting for authorization. General Blake stood next to him, his hand on the master control switch. Prometheus fire is authorized. Execute immediately. Cross looked at the countdown timer on his screen. In 10 seconds, the alien fleet would be in perfect position. Their tight formation, designed for maximum bombardment efficiency, would become their doom. Firing in 5.4.3.2.1. Fire. Blake pressed the switch. And around the world, 500 quantum resonance stations discharged simultaneously. The energy release was so massive that it briefly overloaded satellite communications and caused aurora displays visible from space. Beams of pure energy, invisible to the naked eye, but deadly beyond imagination, streaked across the solar system at nearly the speed of light. Each beam was targeted at a specific alien ship, timed to strike during the brief moment when their shields were vulnerable. The alien fleet had 68 seconds to live, but they didn't know it yet. Admiral Kralfex watched his weapons charging and smiled. In moments, the demonstration would begin, and another species would learn the price of defying the Zephyrian Empire. He had no idea that he was about to become the first alien commander in galactic history to lose an entire invasion fleet before firing a single shot. The energy beams from Earth traveled through space at nearly the speed of light. For 68 seconds, they were invisible death racing toward the alien fleet. Admiral Kralfex stood on his bridge, completely unaware that his entire armada was already doomed. Weapons charged and ready, reported Commander Zethrak. Targeting London, Tokyo, and New York as ordered. Fire, Kralfex commanded. But before the alien weapons could discharge, the universe changed. The first beam struck the flagship's main reactor, just as its shields rotated to the vulnerable frequency. The massive ship, over 50 miles long, was sliced cleanly in half. The explosion lit up space like a small sun. Admiral Kralfex had exactly 2 seconds to realize what was happening before his bridge vaporized around him. His final thought was impossible to believe. The humans had turned their entire planet into a weapon. Across the alien fleet, the same scene repeated thousands of times. Quantum energy beams struck with surgical precision, hitting each target during its brief shield gap. Ships that had conquered 17 civilizations were cut apart like paper dolls. The Zephyrian dreadnought Voidhammer exploded so violently that the blast destroyed 6 nearby cruisers. The massive carrier Deathwing broke into 3 pieces, its fighter bays erupting in secondary explosions. Ship after ship died in brilliant flashes of light. On Earth, Dr. Nathan Cross watched his targeting screen as red dots disappeared one by one. Direct hits on targets 1 through 500, 1,000, 2,000. The quantum resonance stations were firing in perfect sequence, each beam timed to hit its target at the exact moment of shield vulnerability. Years of preparation and calculation were paying off in the most devastating military strike in human history. Status report from all stations, called Dr. Karen White. Station Alpha 7 is offline after discharge, came a report from Colonel Rodriguez. In the Pacific. But we got our targets. European grid is functioning normally, reported Commander Helen Scott. All beams found their marks. Cross watched the destruction unfold on his monitors. The alien fleet, which had seemed invincible just minutes before, was dissolving into expanding clouds of debris and plasma. Target elimination at 96.8%, he announced. Only 347 enemy ships remained functional. Those surviving ships were at the edges of the formation, too far from the main group to be caught in the coordinated strike. Most were small patrol vessels and scouts. The entire Zephyrian battle fleet had been wiped out in less than 5 minutes. General Marcus Blake stood next to Cross, watching the tactical display with amazement. In his 30 years of military service, he had never seen anything like this. An entire invasion force destroyed before it could fire a single shot. Get me a communication line to any surviving alien ships, Blake ordered. A few minutes later, they had contact with Commander Yex Tao, captain of the scout ship Night Prowler. The alien's voice shook with terror and disbelief. What ... What did you do? Our fleet ... Our entire fleet. We defended our home, Blake replied calmly. You came here to destroy us. We simply returned the favor. This is impossible, Yextel stammered. You are a primitive species. Your weapons are centuries behind ours. Apparently not, Blake said. Now, here's what's going to happen. You're going to return to your empire and deliver a message. Earth is not defenseless. Earth is not prey. Any future attacks will be met with the same response. There was a long pause before the alien replied. The Empire ... The Empire will send a larger fleet. Blake smiled grimly. Let them come. We'll be ready. The surviving alien ships retreated at maximum speed, carrying news of the impossible defeat. Back to the Zephyrian Empire. The retreat was so panicked that 2 ships collided while trying to jump to hyperspace. On Earth, the celebration began slowly. People had watched the battle on television, seeing the brilliant flashes of light as the alien fleet died. But it took time for the reality to sink in. Humanity had won. President Calvin Hayes addressed the world from the White House. Behind him, the screen showed the debris field where the enemy fleet had been. My fellow humans, he began, today, we faced extinction and chose to fight instead. The alien invasion has been defeated, completely and utterly. Not a single enemy ship reached our planet. Around the world, people poured into the streets. In New York, London, and Tokyo, the cities that had been targeted for destruction, millions celebrated their survival. Fireworks lit up the night. Sky and car horns honked in every language. But the celebration was tempered by a sobering realization. Dr. Cross stood in his laboratory, looking at the readouts from his quantum resonance stations. The weapon system had worked perfectly, but its power was terrifying. We just destroyed 10,000 ships in 5 minutes, he said to Karen. What does that make us? Karen looked at the data on her screen. It makes us the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Captain Ryan Foster stood on the bridge of the USS Phantom, watching the debris field through his ship's telescopes. The alien ships that had seemed so massive and invincible were now scattered fragments drifting in space. Captain, said Lieutenant Amy Carter, I'm receiving surrender signals from the remaining enemy vessels. Patch me through to General Blake, Foster replied. A few minutes later, Blake's voice came through the communication system. "Foster, I want you to escort those surviving ships to the edge of our solar system. Make sure they leave and don't come back." "Understood, sir. What about the debris?" "Leave it. Let anyone who comes looking see what happens when Earth is threatened." The USS Phantom moved through the wreckage field, its cameras recording everything. Pieces of alien technology drifted past, some still glowing with residual energy. "Foster's." Crew collected samples of the advanced materials and weapon systems. "This stuff is centuries ahead of our technology," Sergeant Jake Williams reported from the engineering station. "If we can reverse engineer it, we'll have the most advanced fleet in the galaxy," Foster finished. Meanwhile, news of the battle was spreading beyond Earth. The few alien survivors transmitted their reports to the Zephyrian Empire, but the signals were intercepted by dozens of other civilizations. Species that had lived in fear of the Empire for centuries suddenly had hope. On the planet Kethver, which had been conquered by the Zephyrians 50 years earlier, underground resistance fighters received the transmission. Their leader, a being called Torax, listened to the report with growing amazement. A single planet destroyed the entire Third Fleet? He asked his communications officer. That's what the survivors claim. The humans used some kind of planetary defense system. Torax looked at his fellow rebels. For half a century, they had hidden in caves and ruins, striking small blows against their oppressors. But if a young species like humanity could defeat the Empire's greatest fleet, contact the other resistance cells, he ordered. Tell them what happened at Earth. The Empire can be beaten. Similar scenes played out across the galaxy. On dozens of conquered worlds, oppressed peoples heard about Earth's victory and began to hope. Some started planning rebellions. Others began building their own defense systems. The Zephyrian Empire, which had ruled through fear for 1,000 years, suddenly faced a galaxy full of enemies who no longer believed in its invincibility. Back on Earth, General Blake was dealing with a new problem. Every government wanted access to the Prometheus fire technology. The Chinese premier was on the phone demanding technical specifications. The Russian president wanted to build his own quantum resonance stations. The technology stays under international control, Blake told them. This isn't about any one country anymore. It's about protecting Earth. Dr. Cross agreed. If every nation builds these weapons, we'll end up destroying ourselves instead of defending against aliens. President Hayes made the decision that would shape humanity's future. The Quantum Resonance Network would remain under the control of the United Earth Defense Command, with representatives from every nation. No single country would have the power to hold the world hostage. But more importantly, Earth would begin building starships. Real starships, capable of carrying the fight to other worlds if necessary. The age of human expansion was about to begin. Alien invasion had failed completely, but it had accomplished something the invaders never intended. It had united humanity and shown them their true potential. Earth was no longer an isolated world of primitive beings. Earth was now the most feared planet in the galaxy, and the galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after the battle, Earth was a different world. The debris from the alien fleet still orbited the planet like a metallic ring, serving as a constant reminder of humanity's victory. But the real changes were happening on the surface. In shipyards that had once built oil tankers and cargo vessels, workers now assembled humanity's first star destroyers. The designs were based on technology recovered from the Zephyrian wreckage, but improved with human engineering. Captain Ryan Foster stood in the main assembly bay, watching crews install the primary weapons on the UES Defiance. The ship was twice the size of his old USS Phantom, and it carried enough firepower to level a continent. "She's beautiful, isn't she?" said General Marcus Blake, walking up beside him. Foster nodded. Hard to believe we built something like this in 6 months. Necessity is a powerful motivator, Blake replied. The galaxy knows we're here now. We need to be ready for whatever comes next. The Defiance was the first of 12 new warships under construction. Each one incorporated lessons learned from the alien technology, but they were uniquely human in design. Where the Zephyrian ships had been massive and intimidating, the human vessels were sleek and fast. Dr. Nathan Cross had spent months studying the recovered alien systems. His team had made breakthrough discoveries in energy weapons, shield technology, and faster-than-light travel. The Zephyrians were powerful, but they weren't innovative, he explained to President Calvin Hayes during a briefing. They used the same designs for centuries. We've already improved on their technology in several key areas. Hayes looked at the technical reports on his desk. How long before we can deploy these new ships? The Defiance will be ready for trials next month, Cross replied. The full fleet should be operational within 2 years. But Earth's preparations went beyond building warships. The quantum resonance network had been expanded and improved. New stations were hidden in asteroid bases and on the moon. If another alien fleet attacked, humanity would be even more ready. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the effects of Earth's victory continued to spread. The Zephyrian Empire was falling. Apart from within, on the conquered world of Veltara, rebels attacked Imperial supply convoys with weapons they had never dared to use before. The local resistance leader, a female warrior named Zara, broadcast a message that reached 17 star systems. The humans showed us the truth, she declared. The Empire is not invincible. They bleed and die just like the rest of us. Today, we fight back. Similar uprisings erupted on dozens of worlds. The Empire's forces spread thin across thousands of planets, could not contain the rebellions. For the first time in centuries, Zephyrian control was weakening. Emperor Vashtok sat in his throne room on the Imperial capital world, reading reports of defeat after defeat. His greatest fleet had been destroyed by a species that hadn't even left their home star system. Now his empire was crumbling. Summon Admiral Dexmar. He ordered his aide. Admiral Dexmar was the Empire's most experienced commander, a veteran of 40 successful conquests. When he arrived, his face showed the strain of the past 6 months. My Emperor, the rebellion spreads faster than we can stop it. We need to consolidate our forces and abandon the outer territories. Emperor Vashtok, eyes glowed with anger. Abandon nothing. I want the humans destroyed. Assemble every ship we have and attack their world again. My lord, that would be unwise. Our intelligence suggests they have improved their defenses significantly. Another attack could result in even greater losses. Then what do you suggest? The Emperor demanded. Admiral Dexmar hesitated before answering. We should offer them a treaty, recognize their independence, and establish trade relations. The humans have proven they can defend themselves. Perhaps it's time to try diplomacy. The Emperor stood from his throne, his face twisted with rage. The Zephyrian Empire does not negotiate with primitives. You will attack Earth, or I will find someone who will. But Admiral Dexmar had seen enough of war. That night, he sent a secret message to Earth, offering to discuss peace terms. It was the first crack in the Empire's foundation, but it would not be the last. On Earth, President Hayes received the Admiral's message in the White House Situation Room. General Blake and Dr. Cross were also present for the historic moment. He wants to meet in neutral space, Hayes read from the transmission. He claims to represent a faction within the Empire that wants peace. Blake was skeptical. It could be a trap. Or it could be an opportunity, Cross added. If the Empire is having internal problems, we might be able to end this conflict without more fighting. Hayes made his decision. We'll meet with him, but we'll be ready for anything. Foster, I want you to command the escort fleet." 2 weeks later, Captain Foster led a small flotilla to the meeting point near Jupiter. The new UE's Defiance flew, alongside 2 older destroyers, their weapons ready but not targeted. The Zephyrian ship that met them was a sleek cruiser flying under a white flag of truce. Admiral Dexmar himself came aboard the Defiance for the negotiations. The alien commander was tall and imposing, but his manner was respectful rather than threatening. When he spoke to Foster and the human delegation, his voice carried genuine regret. "I want you to know that not all Zephyrians supported the attack on your world," he said. "Many of us believed it was a mistake from the beginning." Foster studied the alien's face. "Then why didn't you stop it? The Emperor's word is law, but your victory has changed everything. Half the Empire's military leaders now question his judgment. The negotiations lasted 3 days. Admiral Dexmar offered to recognize Earth's independence and establish peaceful relations. In exchange, he asked for human technology to help modernize the Empire's outdated systems. But Foster had a different proposal. "Help us free the worlds your Empire has conquered. Share information about other hostile civilizations. Work with use to bring peace to this region of space." Admiral Dexmar was quiet for a long moment. What the human was suggesting was nothing less than the complete transformation of the Zephyrian Empire. "You ask me to betray everything I have sworn to uphold," he finally said. "We ask you to choose between the past and the future," Foster replied. "Your empire is dying. Help us build something better." The alien admiral made his choice. 3 months later, civil war erupted in the Zephyrian Empire. Admiral Dexmar led the reformed faction, while loyal Imperial forces fought to maintain the old order. Earth provided weapons and tactical support to the rebels, but did not send troops. This was a fight the Zephyrians had to win for themselves. War lasted 18 months and ended with Emperor Vashtuka's death in the ruins of his palace. Admiral Dexmar became the first elected leader of the new Zephyrian Republic. 1 year later, Ambassador Lisa Monroe stood before the newly formed Galactic Council on the neutral world of Centaura Prime. The woman who had first detected the alien invasion was now humanity's chief diplomat. Earth proposes the creation of a mutual defense pact, she announced to the assembled representatives of 47 civilizations. Any world that faces invasion or oppression can call upon the Alliance for aid. The proposal was approved unanimously. The old era of conquest and empire was ending, replaced by cooperation and mutual protection. But Earth's greatest achievement was yet to come. Dr. Cross had been working on a new project, something that would benefit all intelligent life in the galaxy. "We call it the Prometheus Network," he explained to the assembled alien scientists. "Quantum communication stations that can transmit instantly across any distance. No more isolation. No more fear of the unknown." A first station was activated on Earth, sending a message of peace to every corner of the galaxy. Within 5 years, thousands of worlds were connected by the network, sharing knowledge and culture across the stars. Captain Foster, now Admiral Foster, stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony as it explored the galaxy's outer rim. His mission was not conquest but discovery, seeking out new civilizations and offering them membership in the growing alliance. "Admiral," reported his science officer, "we're detecting signals from an unexplored star system. It looks like radio transmissions from a primitive civilization." Foster smiled. Another young species was taking its first steps into space. Unlike the old empires, humanity would offer them guidance and protection rather than conquest. "Set course for the system," he ordered. "Let's go introduce ourselves." General Blake, now elderly but still sharp, stood in the Earth Defense Command Center, watching the displays that showed human ships throughout the galaxy. The boy who had once feared. for humanity's survival, now oversaw the most powerful peacekeeping force in known space. "Status report," he called to his aide. "All peaceful, sir. Trade routes are secure, colonies are thriving, and no hostile activities detected anywhere in our patrol zones." Blake nodded with satisfaction. It had taken 10 years, but they had built something remarkable. A galaxy where strength was used to protect rather than oppress. President Hayes, serving his third term in office, delivered his final address to the United Earth Assembly. His words were broadcast across 40,000 worlds. "We learned something important during the invasion," he said. "Strength without wisdom leads to tyranny. Wisdom without strength leads to extinction. But when we combine both, we can build a future worth living for." The speech ended with humanity's new motto, "Word